right, so you're thinking about your golden years, right? And maybe thinking about adding some actual gold into that picture.
Yeah, a lot of people are these days, and makes sense when you look around.
It does, yeah. Like everything going on, you hear all this talk about inflation, right? Everyone's trying to figure out like how to protect what they've worked for and maybe find some ways to diversify.
For sure, and that's where this idea of a gold IRA comes in.
Okay, so a gold IRA.
Right. So basically, it's like a retirement account. Um, but instead of holding the usual things, like stocks and bonds, you're holding actual precious metals.
So actual gold bars and stuff.
Yeah, gold, silver, platinum, even palladium.
Hmm, interesting.
It's considered a self-directed IRA, so you have more control over what goes into it.
Makes sense.
But the main rules about how much you can put in and how it's taxed are very similar to traditional IRAs.
Got it. So
Yeah.
the core idea is pretty clear, but the real question is like, how do you even begin to pick the right company to do this with?
Yeah, that's a big one.
Like this is your retirement we're talking about,
Yeah.
right? So you really want to make sure you're not messing this up.
Absolutely. And luckily, we've got some good information to work with today. We're looking at this great piece by Doug Young called How to Compare Gold IRA Companies to Invest in.
That sounds promising.
It's a really useful resource. And what we want to do today in this deep dive is really break down the most important points.
Yeah, so listeners walk away feeling like they can actually compare these companies and confidently choose the one that's right for them.
Exactly, a roadmap for making the best decision for your retirement.
Perfect. So where do we even start with this? I mean, I guess the first thing that comes to mind is like, what kind of reputation does this company have?
Yeah, that's got to be the foundation, right? You're looking for someone with a proven track record.
Hmm.
They've been around for a while and have a history of doing things the right way.
So not some fly-by-night operation.
Exactly. You're trusting them with a huge part of your financial future.
Right, so you got to do your homework.
You bet. Check out those testimonials, look at client reviews, see if they've gotten any awards or recognition from industry organizations.
And there are some specific resources for this, aren't there?
Yeah, for sure. Places like the Better Business Bureau, the BBB,
Yeah, everyone's heard of them.
the Business Consumer Alliance, the BCA Trust Link. All these are great for checking ratings and seeing if there are any red flags or patterns of complaints.
Oh, that's a good point. Like not just the overall rating, but like what are people actually complaining about?
Yeah, are there multiple complaints about hidden fees or problems with the buyback program? Consistent issues like that could be a real warning sign.
Makes sense. So you've checked out their reputation. What's next?
Fees, got to understand the fees.
Right, because it can't all be free.
No. And this is where it gets a little tricky because there are different ways companies structure their fees.
Like what?
Well, you'll see things like flat fees versus scaled fees.
Okay. And what's the difference?
So a flat fee is just that one set amount no matter how much money you have in your account.
Okay, easy to understand.
A scaled fee is usually a percentage of your assets. So it might sound small at first, like 0.1%. But think about it.
Oh?
If your account grows, which is what you want,
Yeah.
right? Those fees grow too.
Yeah, that makes sense. So if you start with $50,000 and it doubles to $100,000, your fees double too.
Exactly. And over the long term, that can really eat into your returns.
So flat fees are better.
Generally, yeah. Research suggests they tend to be more cost-effective over time. You know exactly what you're paying from the get-go.
That makes sense. And it's not just the obvious fees you have to think about, right?
No, there can be hidden costs lurking in the shadows.
Like what kind of hidden costs?
Well, things like setup fees to open the account, storage fees for holding the metals.
Oh, I wouldn't have thought about that.
Yeah, it's important to get a complete picture up front.
Yeah,
No surprises when it comes to your retirement money.
absolutely. Full transparency. That's what you want.
Exactly. And an ethical company is going to be upfront about all those costs right from the start.
So you're not getting hit with unexpected charges later on.
Exactly. And that brings us to another really important point, the whole customer service aspect.
Yes, because this isn't just about buying some gold and sticking it in a vault somewhere, right? It's about having a relationship with a company that you trust,
Right. You want to be able to pick up the phone and talk to someone who knows what they're doing.
someone who can answer your questions and actually help you out if you need it.
Exactly. And it doesn't matter if you're a seasoned investor or this is your first foray into precious metals. Everyone deserves good customer service.
Makes sense. And I know the research we looked at talked about the benefit of having like a dedicated representative for your account.
Oh, yeah, that can be huge.
Yeah.
It gives you that one-on-one connection, someone who understands your specific situation and your goals for your retirement.
Yeah, so you're not just a number to them.
Exactly. It builds trust and makes the whole process so much smoother.
So customer service is key. And of course, there's the whole ethical standards thing.
Yeah, that's a big one.
I mean, we're talking about our savings here. We want to make sure the company we're working with is playing by the rules.
Absolutely. An ethical company is going to be transparent about everything, their fees, their procedures, their investment strategies.
No hidden agendas, no shady business.
Right. They should be upfront about everything and make sure you understand each step of the way.
And what about those high-pressure sales tactics?
Ugh. Yeah, that's a huge red flag.
Like if they're trying to rush you into making a decision you're not comfortable with.
Exactly. A good company isn't going to do that. They should be patient, answer all your questions, and help you make a decision that's truly in your best interest.
Not just trying to meet their sales quota.
Exactly. And of course, they need to be following all the legal and IRS regulations.
Right, making sure your investment is safe and sound.
Absolutely. And don't be afraid to double check any claims they make about endorsements or ratings.
Oh yeah, good point.
Just because they say they're the best doesn't mean it's true. Do your own research. Verify things independently.
Always a good idea. Okay, so we've talked about the company itself, but what about the actual gold?
The metals.
I mean, a gold IRA isn't just limited to gold, right?
Nope. You got options. You can hold silver, platinum, palladium.
Oh, cool. I didn't realize that.
Each metal has its own personality, so to speak, different market dynamics.
So you could diversify within precious metals.
Exactly.
Huh. Okay, so then there's the question of like, how do you actually own the metal? Like, is it like bars of gold or what?
Yeah, you have bullion and coins.
So bullion is like the bars and stuff.
Right. Typically bars or ingots valued based on their weight and purity.
Straight up, how much gold is there?
Exactly. And then you have coins, which can have additional value based on their rarity, if they're a special design or have historical significance.
Oh, that's interesting. So coins can be more than just the metal itself.
Yeah, it adds another layer for those who are into that kind of thing.
So some people might see that as an advantage.
For sure. Some like the simplicity of bullion, others like the potential upside of collectible coins.
Variety is the spice of life.
That's right. So it really depends on your individual goals and preferences.
All right, so let's fast forward a bit. It's retirement time. You want to start accessing this money. What happens then?
Yeah. Got to think about the end game.
Exactly. And this is where the company's buyback policies become really important.
For sure. You don't want any surprises when you're ready to cash in.
Right, because I imagine there are companies out there that make it difficult or expensive to sell your metals back to them.
Unfortunately, yeah. That's why it's crucial to understand this part up front.
So what should people look for?
Well, first, they need to make sure the company actually has a buyback program.
Oh, yeah, good point. Not all of them might.
Right. And then you got to see how it works, How long does it take to get your money? What are their fees?
And are they going to give you a fair price for the metal?
Exactly. You want to see a history of them buying back metals at market value.
So transparency is key here, too.
Absolutely. The more information they give you, the better.
All right, so let's rewind back to the beginning, the whole setup process. Got to get the ball rolling.
Right. So hopefully this part's not a headache.
It shouldn't be. A reputable company is going to make this as easy as possible.
So what are the steps involved?
Well, first, you open a self-directed IRA. Then you choose the metals you want. Then you fund the account.
And if you're rolling over money from an existing retirement account?
The company should be able to help you with that, too.
Good to know.
Yeah, they should guide you through the whole process and make sure you're not getting hit with any unnecessary taxes or penalties.
Excellent. So once you've got the metals, what happens then? Where do they go?
Storage. That's another big one.
Because you can't just keep bars of gold under your mattress.
No, definitely not.
So where does it go?
Well, the IRS has rules about this.
Yeah.
The metals have to be stored in an approved depository.
Makes sense.
So gold IRA companies will typically offer different options like segregated storage.
Segregated?
Yeah, means your metals are kept separate from everyone else's.
Ah, okay. So it's like your own little vault within the vault. Exactly. And then there's commingled storage where your metals are stored with other investors' metals.
So it's often mixed together.
Right. But still within a secure facility.
Okay, and I imagine security is super important here.
Absolutely. You want to know what kind of security measures they have in place, whether your metals are insured, all the details.
Peace of mind, right.
Exactly. You got to make sure your investment is protected.
Okay, so we've set up the account, we've bought the metals, they're safely stored away. What happens next?
Well, it's not just a set it and forget it kind of thing.
Right, you got to keep an eye on things.
Exactly. A good company will provide you with tools and services to monitor your portfolio, see how it's performing.
So you can make adjustments if you need to.
Right. Because even though gold is considered a long-term investment, things can change. Market conditions can fluctuate.
Makes sense. So you want to stay informed and be able to adapt your strategy if necessary.
Absolutely. It's about making sure your investments are still meeting your goals as you move closer to retirement.
All right, so we've covered a lot of ground here, but I know there's some common questions that come up when people start looking into gold IRAs.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, first of all, can you actually roll over an existing retirement account into a gold IRA?
Yeah, in most cases you can.
So if you have a traditional IRA or a 401k, you can move that money into a gold IRA.
Exactly, without getting hit with any immediate taxes or penalties.
That's good to know. And what are the tax benefits?
So, just like a traditional IRA, you might be able to deduct your contributions from your taxes.
No.
And any growth in your account is tax deferred, meaning you won't pay taxes on it until you start taking distributions in retirement.
Makes sense. And are there limits on how much you can contribute?
Yeah, for 2025, the limit is $7,000 or $8,000 if you're 50 or older.
Okay, and when can you start taking money out without penalty?
59 and a half, just like a traditional IRA.
Got it. And then finally, what about when you want to actually sell the metal and get your money out?
Right, so you can typically sell it back to the company through their buyback program.
Or to a third-party dealer if you want.
Exactly. But remember, when you do this, it's considered a distribution from your retirement account.
So there will be tax implications.
Yes, just like any other withdrawal from a traditional IRA.
Okay, so to sum all this up, what are the most important things people should keep in mind when comparing gold IRA companies?
Well, first and foremost, their reputation. What kind of track record do they have? Are clients happy?
Right, and what are their fees?
Exactly. Make sure you understand all the fees, both the obvious ones and any hidden costs.
And how's their customer service?
Yeah, are they responsive, helpful, knowledgeable?
And do they operate ethically?
Huge one. Are they transparent about everything? Do they follow the rules?
And then you got to look at the investment options, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
What kind of metals do they offer? Bullion coins.
And don't forget those buyback policies.
Absolutely. How easy is it to sell your metal back to them when you're ready?
And all the other stuff too, like the setup process storage options.
Yeah.
The tools they provide for monitoring your portfolio.
It's a lot to consider, but choosing the right gold IRA company is so important for your retirement.
Absolutely. And here's something for everyone to think about. Gold has historically been seen as a safe haven during times of economic uncertainty.
That's right.
So how might adding a gold IRA to your overall retirement plan fit with your own risk tolerance and your timeline for retirement? Could it provide that extra sense of security in a world that feels increasingly unpredictable? It's something to ponder as you continue planning for your future.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
Thanks for having me.